I'm Noam Schwartz.
Today we'll be talking about Theodore Roosevelt. He was born October 27th, 1858 in Manhattan, New York. His early political career began as a New York State Assembly member, which later led him to be a U.S. Civil Service Commissioner.
From there, he became New York City Police Commissioner. After this, he became the Assistant Secretary of the Navy, where he eventually became the Secretary of the Navy. After his service in the Navy, he led the Rough Riders in the Spanish-American War, which was a cavalry unit. He then became governor of New York, and in 1900, he became the vice president for President McKinley. After McKinley's assassination, Roosevelt became president in 1901. He was the 26th president of the U.S. at age 42 and the youngest president ever. Later in the show, we will be interviewing our specialist on Teddy Roosevelt, James O'Connor. But for now, it's just you and me, Dale.
Yep. When Theodore Roosevelt took the oath of office in September 1901, he decided to become president of a country that had changed significantly over recent decades. The population of the United States has almost doubled from 1870 to 1900s as immigrants came to the U.S. for work in factories. As they became increasingly urban and industrial, they acquired many attributes. At the turn of the 20th century, Americans had begun to look for ways to address some of these problems. As chief executive, Roosevelt felt empowered by the people to help ensure social justice and economic opportunity through government regulation. He was not a radical, however. He believed that big businesses were a natural part of maturing the economy and therefore saw no reason to abolish it. In addition, Teddy Roosevelt was a politician who understood the need of compromise in order to implement his ideas. Coming into office following William McKinley's assassination, Roosevelt pledged to maintain the fallen president's policies so as not to upset the nation in a time of mourning. As he began to chart his own course, Roosevelt knew that he had to work with congressional Republicans to get the GOP nomination for president in 1904.
One of Roosevelt's central beliefs was that the government had the right to regulate big business to protect the welfare of society. However, this idea was relatively untested. The monopoly on railroads by J.P. Morgan violated the Sherman Antitrust Act because it was a monopoly. In 1904, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of the government and ordered the company dismantled. The High Court's action was a major victory for the administration and put the business community on notice that although this was a Republican administration, it would not give business free rein to operate without regard for the public welfare.
Roosevelt was one of the first presidents concerned with conservation. Everywhere he went, he preached the need to preserve woodlands and mountain ranges as places of refuge and retreat. He identified American character with the nation's wilderness regions, believing that our Western and frontier heritage had shaped American values, behavior, and culture. He wanted to change the United States from exploiting natural resources to carefully managing them. He worked with Gifford Pinchot, head of the Forestry Bureau, and Frederick Newell, head of the Reclamation Service, to revolutionize this area of U.S. government. In 1902, he signed the Newlands Reclamation Bill, which used money from federal land sales to build reservoirs and irrigation to promote agriculture in the arid West. After he won the re-election right in 1904, he felt empowered to make more significant changes in this domain.
A quick sponsor brought to you by
In my tummy, party, party! Yeah! In my tummy, juice! Yeah! In my tummy, yeah!
Around the turn of the century in the United States, print media changed. Instead of media following national party lines, reporters became more independent and likely to expose scandals and abuses. These reporters were known as muckrakers, a term first used by Roosevelt in a 1906 speech. The best examples of a muckraker was Upton Sinclair, who wrote The Jungle. The Jungle described the awful conditions in the meat packaging industry, where rats, putrid meat, and poisoned rat bait were routinely ground up into sausages. Roosevelt responded by pushing for the Meat Inspection Act and the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906. Both pieces of legislation endeared him to the public and to those corporations that favored government regulation as a means of achieving national consumer standards. Roosevelt was the first president to use the power of the media to appeal directly to the American people. He understood that his forceful personality, his rambunctious family, and his many opinions made good company for the press. He also knew that the media was a good way for him to reach out to the people, bypassing political parties and political machines. He used the media as a bully pulpit to influence public opinion. And now it's time for Weather on the Ones with our weatherman, Dave. How's it outside, Dave?
Dave, can you hear us?
We're experiencing some technical
65 degrees out here, and it's feels like it's a lot colder than that.
Now let's bring in our special guest, James O'Connor. Hey, glad to have you with us today.
Just state for the record, I am not Weatherman Dave. He is my brother, and we'd like to share outfits. Oh. How are you doing today?
Hello, sir.
Teddy Roosevelt was the model president of the 20th century. He was very engaged in both domestic and foreign policy, and he set the political agenda for the whole country. His political program, the Square Deal, aimed to distinguish useful products and services at fair prices from corporations that only had self-interest. Roosevelt felt it was the federal government's responsibility to regulate the economy. He used the Sherman Act to prosecute bad trusts such as the Northern Securities Company, which was a holding company created by J.P. Morgan that directed 3 major railroads and monopolized transport.
Perhaps go into further detail about some of the issues in this current time period and what types of acts were passed in order to help these issues.
Yeah. The Pure Food and Drug Act and the Meat Inspection Act of 1906 were both widely accredited to the book called The Jungle.
Upton Sinclair.
Upton Sinclair revealed the unhygienic and unsanitary methods used by the food industry, and from that a scandal emerged about the quality and purity of food sold to the U.S. public. The Jungle was published in 1906 and became an international bestseller. Upton Sinclair exposed Chicago's meatpacking industry by telling tales of diseased meat, dead rats, and the poison that killed them.
What was the purpose of the Pure Food and Drug Act?
Okay, the purpose of the Pure Food and Drug Act was to respond to the unhygienic and unsanitary processing methods and to protect the public from contaminated, unsafe food. It also prevented mislabeling of food and drugs.
Why was the Pure Food and Drug Act important?
It improved general health and welfare of the public and prevented the misrepresentation of medicine and drugs. It also gave credibility to the Square Deal and the whole domestic policy of President Roosevelt. It also challenged the unsavory and unethical practices of companies. It tackled the progressive issues relating to the improvement of health and the safety of the public.
So I've heard about Roosevelt's Square Deal. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. The Square Deal was based on 3 basic ideas: conservation of natural resources, control of corporations, and consumer protection. The Square Deal sought to protect both business and labor, and it also was meant to break up large monopolies, and it did so pretty effectively. It ended up getting the name Trustbuster.
Alright. Well, James, thank you for your time. It's been great to have you here.
It's been a pleasure to be here. Now I'm going to take some of these things before I go. Okay, goodbye.
Thank you for being with us tonight. Before we sign off, we would like to go over just a few interesting facts about Theodore Roosevelt that you might not know.
He didn't drink alcohol, ever, but he drank a lot of coffee. He drank nearly a gallon a day.
He was wired.
He officially named the executive mansion the White House.
Theodore Roosevelt was a man who was rich in contradictions. He was a conservative who fought for reform, a hunter who started the conservation movement, and a hop-on war who won the Nobel Peace Prize. He was a great man, a great president, and from news, I don't fucking know.